Welcome back, and hello if you are new. So thanks again for tuning in. The word vicious is thrown around in the world of metal quite frivolously. Without necessarily always earning it, bands are kind of given this accolade of being the most vicious band ever. But Full of Hell not only qualify for the word vicious, but surpass it on their brand new album. First and foremost, this is not an album for the faint-hearted. And for those who are kind of getting into the world of metal, you might struggle with this one because Full of Hell operate in the real parameters of the extreme. Following the blast beat barrage of Burning Myrrh, we're thrown straight to the lions on Haunted Arches, whose rib-splitting 1 minute and 8 seconds, I think, assault on the senses is just absolutely ridiculously heavy. Whereas previously Full of Hell might have had more subtle inclusions of this noise avant-garde style, on Weeping Choir there's a track which is solely dedicated to this noise element, and instead of sounding like a gimmick or a cop-out, works brilliantly within the context of the record. The band used these highly sped up triggered machine gun style snare hits coupled with these high-pitched frequencies but also this low-end bass to create a real kind of disjointed sound that, particularly through headphones, makes for a very uncomfortable listening experience. Later on in the track, there's a brilliant use of panning where we hear kind of what sounded to me like a circular saw, and it really is that sort of high frequency that makes you wince a little, and coupled with the sort of black metal vocals that Full of Hell put over it, it makes for such an uncomfortable listen, and that's one of the best things about this whole record. Then the track Rainbow Coil falls away back to this kind of, the original distorted snare drum machine gun style, and then is reprised on Aria of Jeweled Tears. It's almost too much and feels like an assault on the senses at some points and makes you want to turn it off, which for me is its genius. Those kick drums or snare hits that I'd mentioned previously give you exactly 6 seconds before Full of Hell comes racing after you again. And it has that sense of, oh god, this thing's really kind of coming after me. And then slowly we're moved into Silmaril, which again has more of a death metal aesthetic, but with kind of grindcore tendencies as well. And Silmaril has this kind of classic death metal stomp before it goes into this more groovy element of death metal and then grinding into oblivion again. Armory of Obsidian Glass, however, I think really showcases how far Full of Hell have come over the years. Working more in a doom metal aesthetic, the song has something more in common with the likes of Sun O, and really kind of bleeds these riffs out really quite slowly. And then you've got these haunting, sort of weird, demented choir vocals going over the top with the black metal screeching. And it really creates for a very expansive, but yet also very monochromatic and very uncompromising sound. And then the song's riff kind of crawls over for about 5 minutes before we reach this sort of evangelical enlightenment section, which finishes off the track. The pendulum is then swung back into the noise avant-garde sort of section with Angels Gather Here, but then the drunken sway of Downward kind of inspires a punk aesthetic really, and would have, even the bravest of people two-stepping. And the same can't be said for Ygrimmel the Many, which not only has one of the catchiest death metal riffs on the album, but also features the most kind of avant-garde use of a saxophone since I heard Napalm Death's Everyday Pox, for example, which almost leaves you thinking what exactly just happened, which is the genius that makes you want to revisit the album even though it was so intense. If you were to imagine that Full of Hell were kind of like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, you've got the slow-moving big guy, you've got the batshit crazy one, you've got the flight-footed hitchhiker, and then you've got the one keeping it all together. These are all the different elements, so doom, avant-garde, grind, death metal, they're all here, but they come together to create that truly unforgettable and really horrifying feeling, and there's no happy ending here. Full of Hell have without a doubt set the bar incredibly high with Weeping Choir for Album of the Year. And when it comes to something that's as uncompromising and unforgiving as their sound, no one does it better than them. And this is without a doubt a 5 out of 5. This is a masterpiece in grind. You have to listen to this. So, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, hit that like and subscribe button. Also, make sure to turn that notification bell on so that you know when I upload. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next week for another album review. Alright, take care, friends.